my name is George Amadi, and I am the movement builder for the Black majority churches in Just Money Movement. Just Money Movement is an ecumenical Christian charity that is involved in education, advocacy, and building a movement for change. We equip individuals and churches in the UK to connect their faith, values, and financial choices. We advocate for a just use of money by banks, businesses, and in the tax system. We have a vision for a world where money will shape fairer and greener future. So that's a brief of Just Money Movement. We've been involved in a lot of things. We do webinars to sort of energize people and give people a bit of an idea of what we're about. We also get involved in activism. Sometimes we work in collaboration with other organizations like the Share Action. We do visit, certain organizations like banks during their AGMs, and there we try to attempt to put in some efforts to shape the future of the future policies of some of these organizations. We are also involved in campaigning for ethical investments and also fair and greener banking and all that. And also we do encourage people to be aware of where their money is being invested. If people are investing, we want you to invest in what you believe in. And so it's important that we encourage you to invest in and put your money in banks that are green in nature to ensure that your money is being used for the right thing. A lot of Christians wonder what their monies are being used for in the banks. And so these are some of the things we campaign for. And also we've done a bit of campaign also on modern day slavery and all that. And this has helped a lot to create awareness both in the system, in the government, and also in the general public in general. So it's important as you join the Just Money Movement today for our webinar that you understand our background and know what we are doing. It is in view of this that today we've been able to identify a very important and powerful organization that is doing just what we've been talking about. By the way, I want to do a disclaimer, and that disclaimer is that just the contents of Just Money Movement events and resources are aimed at helping Christians explore ethical issues surrounding their finances. It does not, however, involve the provision of financial or legal advice. So we're not here to give legal advice or financial advice. We are a charity. So in addition, Just Money Movement does not recommend or promote specific investments or debt products to individuals or institutions. You can read the rest of our disclaimer with time. But I just want to say here that we are excited, very excited to have with us one of the main organizations doing exactly what we have been campaigning for, and that is ethical investments and impact investments. And this organization has a lot of stake in Africa. And as you can see from the name, it is called Energise Africa. And today, I'm excited to have with us the CEO of Energise Africa. In fact, to be able to pull him out of his very busy schedule is one major thing that we can say that we are grateful for today. So the CEO of Energise Africa is Ray Coyle. He's a technology entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, and also a qualified lawyer. I think that's probably one of the things that makes me excited here, because he's probably my senior colleague, because I'm a lawyer as well. He leads the UK-based impact investment platform. Energize Africa channels private capital into grassroots energy access projects in sub-Saharan Africa, enabling small investors to fund these initiatives. So it's quite important. So Cole has a background in founding funding technology or founding technology companies, and later worked as an intellectual property lawyer. Uh, he transitioned to work in impact investing, focusing on social and environmental impact, particularly in clean technology and renewable energy. So you can see why we are so much attracted to him. Cole's role at Energize Africa involves connecting private capital with renewable energy projects in sub-Saharan Africa. He focuses on providing opportunities for investors to generate both financial returns and positive social and environmental impacts by investing in energy access initiatives. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome our keynote speaker today, the CEO of Energize Africa, Ray Coyle. Thank you, Ray. The platform is yours.
George, thank you for that wonderful welcome. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm really, really delighted to be in the company of people who really care about how their money is spent and who care about environmental and social issues. Thank you for your welcome. I was just looking at my slides as you were talking through that, and you've covered about half of it. So that was very, very thorough and much appreciated. I would like to just put some slides up on the screen, if that's okay, just so that there's something in the background as I talk through this, and people don't have to look at my face for the entire time. So I'll put those up in a moment. And I just wanted to say, in terms of the way we want to do this, we've got about 20 minutes to just talk through what we do and how it works. And then what we would really, really like is to get some feedback, to get some questions, and to get your thoughts on what it is that we do. We don't, because we're a technology platform and everything happens over the internet these days, we don't get enough opportunity to reach out to real people and explain what we do and ask them what they think of what we do. So opportunities like this are really important, and your views and your feedback and your opinions are really, really very valuable and important to us. So I'm now going to try and share my screen, and it'll be very embarrassing if I get this wrong, because George has told everybody that I've run technology companies, so that always makes it slightly difficult if you can't work the tech. But George, could you nod at me if that screen is coming up and looking? Okay, fantastic. So as I'm sure you're all aware by now, the organization is called Energize Africa. We've been going for about 7 years. And one of the interesting things about Energize Africa is that the initial idea and the initial money to set up Energize Africa came from the UK government. It was the UK Foreign Office that originally decided that we should really have an investment platform in the UK where ordinary people can fund energy access projects in sub-Saharan Africa. And they expected this to run for a couple of years with the money that they put in, and 8 years later, we're still here. So if you're ever looking for a possibly rare example of a successful government initiative and a successful example of the UK government coming up with an idea that really works, then I think we're it. And what we do is, as George really well described, is we want to enable people, and by people we mean ordinary people, we mean everybody in the UK, to invest directly into energy access projects in sub-Saharan Africa. And the two really important factors there are the direct investment. We're not an investment fund. We're not taking a whole load of money from people and putting it into a big fund and then deciding what we want to do. We want to give people the opportunity to connect directly with energy access projects and put their money to use in a way that they want to put to use in Africa. The reason that we want to do this, and the reason that we think this is such an important cause, and so important that we focus all of our efforts on this. We don't do anything but energy access. We don't do anything except sub-Saharan Africa. Is that there are 600 million people without access to electricity in Africa today. And as we are a quarter of the way through the 21st century, that's really quite a disgrace. We've had universal access to electricity in the developing world for a long time now, and it has been very, very slow to spread in Africa, much slower than it has been in many parts of Asia. In terms of the climate angle on this, the African population today is about 1.5 billion. That's going to grow to 2.5 billion by 2050. And all of those 2.5 billion people have an expectation and will have a moral right to access electricity. If that electricity is not generated in a clean and environmentally sustainable way, we could have 2.5 billion people powering off fossil fuels. And if that's the way it develops, then all of the solar panels and wind farms and everything else that we're doing in the UK and our little electric cars is going to be a complete waste of time, because the emissions from that growing population will just outweigh it all. So there is a global need and a global imperative to ensure that as the population of Africa grows and that as access to electricity in Africa improves, that it is done in a clean, environmental way. Rural communities in Africa are the ones that have the least access to electricity. I'm traveling to Chad next month, and in rural Chad, the percentage of electricity access is 2%. But mobile phone ownership in rural Chad is 58%, because people need mobile phones nowadays to live ordinary lives and to get access to information. And that just doesn't make sense, because if you've got a mobile phone, you need access to electricity, you've got to charge it. So now that we have this connected internet-based world, access to electricity becomes even more important so that people can run mobile phones, so that people can get access to the internet, so they communicate with each other, so that they can make payments. And the lack of access to electricity means that people are turning to diesel generators. There are about 6.5 million diesel generators in Africa, producing with a total production capacity of about 100 gigawatts. That compares to the solar installations in Africa of about 23 gigawatts, 4 times as many diesel generators, all pumping out fumes, which are very unhealthy for the people around them, generating lots of noise. They're pretty horrible. But they're necessary because there's so little solar. And just to put that 23 gigawatts of solar into context, in the UK, we have 18 gigawatts of solar. So in our little rainy, cloudy island, we have about 80% of as much installed solar capacity as the entire continent of Africa. It's a ridiculous situation. So what we're trying to address as an organization is the lack of access to electricity, but in a clean and sustainable way. So what's the solution? The solution on the face of it is actually pretty straightforward. It's solar. Solar energy is now very, very cheap. Solar panels are cheap, inverters, batteries, all the components have really come down in price. So the technology is there. The sunshine is there. For those of you who've traveled to Africa, you've probably realized a lot of it is a pretty sunny place. The solar power potential, most of the world's solar power potential is in Africa, because there is such regular and constant sunshine and reliable sunshine. So the technology is there, the sunshine is there. The businesses and entrepreneurs are certainly there. There are absolutely amazingly impressive entrepreneurs all across sub-Saharan Africa. George and I were just talking about Lagos in Nigeria just before we started. I was there last year, And as I said to George, I find Lagos so entrepreneurial, it absolutely exhausts me. It's a wonderful place, but pretty tiring, because there is so much energy and so much business now and so much entrepreneurialism. And it's not just there. We have a company we've raised £1.5 million for this year called Altec, and it was founded by two friends, Washikala and Iangwa, who are both from the DRC. The company's headquartered in Goma, and they met in a refugee camp in Tanzania after the civil war in DRC when it spilled over from Rwanda. And they got put through business school by the United Nations. And then after business school, they got together and they went back together to found a company in DRC called Altech, Altech. Should look at it. And it now turns over $15 million a year and employs 3,000 people and has given really accessible, cheap, reliable access to clean electricity to hundreds of thousands of people across DRC. So the entrepreneurs are there, the technology is there, the sunshine is there. What's missing? It's access to capital. That is what people tell us over and over again, that there just is not the access to capital in many, many developing economies. And that affects businesses in two ways. First of all, if a business wants to build a mini grid or buy in inventory, they need capital. And it takes months for inventory to ship from China. Sometimes it can take quite a long time to get inventory, particularly to a place like Chad, which is landlocked. So organizations need capital for a good period of time to get the equipment. Then when they have the equipment, if it's a solar home system, typically it's sold on a credit basis on what's called pay-go to families in Africa because they don't have the capital available themselves to just come out and buy things. So the lack of capital on an individual basis is then multiplied by a lack of capital on a business basis to make it really, really difficult to roll out what should be a real no-brainer solution in a very sunny place that really requires access to electricity and where the technology is available. So our perspective is what is missing is access to capital. What we have in developed economies like the UK and Europe, the US, is we have huge amounts of capital. Individual UK savers have tens of billions of pounds in savings accounts and investment products and shares and bonds in all sorts of things. So what we want to do is we want to take some of that private capital that is available in developed markets, for us it's the UK, and we want to put it to work with these African entrepreneurs to close that capital gap and enable them to bring clean power to these communities in Africa. So the way it works is that we, as an organization, have lots and lots of connections with funders, equity investors, energy organizations, the Minigrid Developers Association, the Renewable Energy Association in Nigeria with access to rural electrification. Through all of these organizations and through networks that we've built up over the past 7 years in Africa, we find businesses and we prioritize businesses that are owned and led and headquartered in Africa because they're the ones that are struggling to get access to capital. The big international companies who are also selling into this market can get access to capital, but local entrepreneurs really, really struggle. So we go and we find those entrepreneurs and we go and we visit them and we get to understand their business and we look through their business plans and their finances and we carry out due diligence from a legal and technical and commercial perspective to find businesses that we think are going to be really successful. And then we allow those businesses to list bonds on our website. And then we ask ordinary people in the UK, our investors are not mega wealthy people. Some of them are richer than others, but we've deliberately set our minimum investment at £50, and we guarantee the first £100 that people invest. So what we're really trying to do is to make this accessible to ordinary people. What we want to do is build a community of thousands of ordinary UK investors. We would much prefer to have that than to have a tiny number of mega rich people putting all the money into this. And then once all the bonds are subscribed for, and a total bond could be anything from a couple of £100,000 to sometimes up to £1,000,000, and we'll have anything from 100 to 500 investors would put money into an individual bond. And once all the money is raised, we send that to the business in Africa, and they repay it over time. It could be as little as 6 months, or it could be as much as 3 years, and they pay interest. So we charge the entrepreneurs 8% interest, which we think is a fair return for our investors, and it's an affordable rate for an energy access business in Africa. And then what those organizations do is they take the money that we provide to them and they use it to make their business work. So solar home systems and lanterns are really very, very effective ways of getting clean energy to individual families. And typically they comprise a couple of solar panels, a battery, maybe a small inverter, and a power outlet so that people can charge phones, operate lights, and sometimes the bigger ones, TVs, fridges, things that people need at home. So our money is used to buy the inventory. Most of the components for all of this come from China because that's where pretty much everything's made these days. So the businesses that we fund, they buy in the components and they build the solar home systems and lanterns in-house, developing skills and technology for that and technological understanding for their own employees as they do it. And then they sell them out to families on what's called a pay-go basis. So it'll be paid off over maybe a year, and our loan is paid back to our investors over that same period of time. Another way in which the money can be used is green mini grids. And a green mini grid is like a solar farm that you would see in the UK, lots and lots of solar panels, but it's not connected to the national grid because in most cases there isn't one where these are installed. Instead, there are batteries and inverters connected directly to the panels, and then that connects via cables and poles out to people's houses. So a typical mini grid will serve 1 to 4 local villages, and that will provide not only homes with power, but also medical clinics, schools, and places of worship. Because having electricity into those organizations for very obvious reasons is really, really important. And we've also funded business that put solar power onto small businesses to give SMEs reliable power so they can employ more people and become more successful, and on affordable housing developments to ensure that people moving into affordable housing have access to cheap and reliable power. We've also funded a few companies that make electric motorbikes in order to give Boda Boda riders, motorbike taxi riders, something that is much cheaper to operate so that they can increase their income and they can reduce pollution. And one of the companies that we fund is a company called Rome in Kenya. And I've been a motorcyclist my whole adult life. And I went down to visit Rome in Kenya and I took one of their bikes out for a ride. And it was awful. I really, really didn't like it. And it made me realize how little we in the developing world understand about what these markets need. Because for me in the UK, if I want to buy a motorbike, I want something that goes fast and looks nice. And I like some chrome and I like it to sound nice. But in Kenya, what you need from a motorbike is rider plus 200 kilos of payload. You need to be able to carry multiple people. You need to be able to do deliveries. You need something that's easily maintained. So what we need to be investing in isn't European companies coming in with our European perspective and telling these markets what they need. We need to be investing in local people who know what they need and who can design products that are much better suited to that local market. In order to... sorry, I didn't catch that. If that was a question, please feel free to jump in. But if not, I'll carry on. So we choose businesses based firstly on their impact. We really want to invest in impactful companies that are going to bring affordable clean energy to the poorest. And we also want to invest in businesses that can repay our loans. We absolutely acknowledge that charitable investment is needed and philanthropy is needed in lots of markets, but we also think that businesses need commercial debt. They need to be able to borrow money, and if businesses that borrow money and pay it back are much more sustainable than businesses that need to rely on philanthropy. So we go and we visit the companies, we monitor them, and we make sure to the greatest extent possible that our investors get paid their money back. And what this has meant over the past 7 years is we've managed to raise £45 million, and we've channeled £45 million into African businesses providing energy access. That's provided clean electricity to 750,000 people. Not a big chunk out of those 600 million from the first slide, but we're trying. And has avoided 850,000 tons of CO2 from entering the atmosphere through diesel gensets. And that figure is going up on a daily basis. And for us, while those figures are important and the headline numbers and the stats are important, what's actually more important is the impact that it has on people's lives. And two examples I want to leave you with, both of these are businesses that I've visited and people that I've talked to. And Patience in Uganda runs a small shop, and she's run it for years, and it's a business that keeps her family going. But getting access to a self-contained solar home system for the shop enabled her to put in a fridge for cold drinks and fresh food. And that doubled her sales. So it made her business much, much more successful and makes it much easier for her to sustain her family. And Nima, who I visited when I went to Goma in DRC, and she's a customer of Altec, the business I mentioned earlier, and runs a small restaurant. But in Goma, it gets dark at 6 o'clock. And if you don't have electricity to keep the lights on, you close your business and you lose a huge amount of business from people coming home from work. So Nima getting access to solar power enabled her to keep her restaurant open for longer and increase her revenue. And it has now, actually, I heard from Altec, enabled her to also employ more people. So we're delivering not just quality of life and improvement of earnings, but also employment. And Goma is a particularly challenged area at the moment. Lots of you will be aware in the news of the conflict with the M23 rebels in that particular area. But we continue to support Altec as a business headquartered in Goma. And the final thing I just wanted to mention, this isn't specifically about Energise Africa, but after this call, we would like to circulate to the people who've attended, or we'll ask, maybe George can circulate or Rosie can circulate to the attendees. We're working with a charity called Afford, based in London, to run a listening exercise so that we can reach out to African diaspora in the UK to ask them for their views on what we do and ask them for input. And we really want to hear what people who are either first or second generation Africans living in the UK, what they think of what we're doing and how we could change it to make it more relevant and more accessible and more attractive to them, because we think this is an extremely important cohort that we haven't really managed to listen to enough, and we really want to incorporate their views more. So we'll circulate it after this meeting, and it'd be really great if you could take part in the survey. And with that, I will stop talking. And it would be really great if anybody has comments or questions. I think there's some things have gone into the chat, but I haven't had a chance to have a look yet. So I'll just take that off the screen and be interested to hear thoughts.
Wow, thank you so much, Ray. This is beautiful. I think I'm beginning to pinch myself that we didn't give enough time and I'm beginning to hope that we might have to have a repeat. Again, this is so informative, inspiring, and very innovative as well. And I'm so excited about it.
We're
So
very
thank you
happy to
so
come
much.
back.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. So I just want to ask, is there any question for Ray right now from the presentation you've had about the work that Energize Africa is doing in Africa in general? Anybody? You can raise your hand, you can type, or you can just unmute and speak if you have a question. We'll take a few questions.
Yeah, can I ask Ray? Hi, Ray. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very eye-opening. Can you kind of go through that again? The solar energy, is it that we are investing in solar energy so people will access it back in Africa, like in Nigeria? Then we'll get back interest on our investment. Is that what you mean?
Yes. So what we do is we enable companies to raise money. So they issue what are called corporate bonds. And that basically means that and they're broken down into £50 chunks. So if you subscribe for a £50 bond from a company, then you're effectively lending them £50, and it will be for a period of anything from 6 months to 3 years. So to give a concrete example, at the moment, we've got 2 offers listed on the platform. One is Roam, the Kenyan electric motorbike company, and they borrow money just for a 6-month period because they're pretty efficient. And what they do is they take the money from us, and I think we just raised a bond of about $500,000. They use that money to buy in lots of components, and then they build lots and lots of motorbikes. So it costs them about $2,000 to build a motorbike. So for £500,000, they build about 300 motorbikes. And then they take the motorbikes and they sell them to an organization called M-KOPA, which is a finance organization. And then M-KOPA pay them in cash for the bikes. And then what M-KOPA do is they then sell the bikes to the Boda Boda riders, but they do it on credit. So our investors get paid back really quite quickly, just 6 months, and then they can recycle the money again. So it's lending, but it's lending to a company that will then repay the money. And the other example that is listed at the moment is a company called OnePower, and they're building a series of mini grids in northern Benin, a very rural area. I haven't been, my colleague went to visit that one. And each mini grid will serve maybe 4 small villages, multiple small businesses, clinics, schools, places of worship. And what we're doing is we're lending the company the money to buy in all of the equipment in order to build the mini grid. But they've got a grant arrangement, and when they switch on the mini grid, when they commission it, they will get paid out quite a substantial grant. And that grant is what will repay all of our investors. And that's becoming a much more popular way for donors, governments to support projects in Africa. Instead of giving somebody a grant and saying, okay, here's some money, go off and build something, what they're doing is they're saying to organizations, okay, go and build something, and then I'll give you a grant. And it means that there's even more of a need for that capital from us, because you can't build something without money. So in Nigeria, the World Bank is running a program at the moment where they're issuing $750 million of grants to build mini grids in Nigeria. But it's all what's called results-based finance. Nobody can get paid out the grant until they've built the mini grid. So there's huge demand in Nigeria now for that finance to bridge the gap. And that's what we're providing. So in participating in Energize Africa, what an individual does is they take hopefully a small part of their money. Nobody should put all of their savings into Energise Africa. We're quite niche, but hopefully a small part of the money they want to put to good use. And they're lending it directly to an individual company. It doesn't come via us. It goes directly to that company. They use the money for exactly what they will say in the documentation to use it for, to build motorbikes, to build a mini grid, to buy in solar home systems, whatever it is. And then when they complete their project or they get paid for the product that they sell, they repay our investors, and then we start all over again. Does that make sense, Chika?
Yes, very well, Ray. Thank you. But now, how do you verify that the people you are investing in are genuine, that the money we are giving is going to the right people?
We do that in a number of different ways. So first of all, we do due diligence based on lots of documents. So we check, we have KYC, know your client checks. We check the company's register to make sure that the directors are real. We get references on the directors. We do criminal records checks on directors. We get bank statements from companies. There's a lot of documentation and systems checks that you can do to make sure that people are real and genuine. The second thing that we do is that we're very connected into the other organizations that are operating in this space. So very frequently, if a company comes to us, they will already have had some funding from another organization, or will have had a grant from another organization, will have had some money from somewhere. Because debt isn't the first thing that you can get as a company. We don't invest in any companies that haven't been operating for 3 years. So generally speaking, within 3 years, people have had somebody buy shares in the company or give them a grant, and we go and we talk to those people and find out what their experience was and whether these companies have delivered on what they've told people they will do in the past. And then the third thing that's really important is we go and visit them all. We go and we see, and we go out to the project sites, and we look at the project sites, and we talk to the people in the community, and we ask them, are they being involved in the decisions that are being made by the company? And we ask them what this is going to mean to them. And we spend time really understanding the project. And that's important in order for, as you were saying, to make sure that it's all genuine. But it's also really important that we meet and spend time with the management of the companies. And that's because some of these projects are really hard. They're really difficult. It's not easy to operate a business in Goma when there's a conflict on. It's not easy to build a mini grid in Benin when you can't predict the rainy season anymore. It's not easy to run these organizations. And it's really, really important to us to spend time with the management so that we can get confidence that when things go wrong, not if, but when, because things will go wrong, that we're lending money, or our community are lending money to people who've got the resilience and the capability and the knowledge and the experience to be able to overcome those challenges and still make a successful business. And I mean, Altek's a great example of the company in DRC. They've been running for 12 years. And any management team that can run a company profitably and successfully in DRC with all that it's been through in the past decade, that's a very, very resilient and resourceful management team. And I would back them with my money to make a success of their venture before I would back lots and lots of entrepreneurs and business people that work in much easier jurisdictions like the UK.
Thank you very much, Ray. Any other questions? At least let's take one more before we move forward. Any other questions? Someone has said we would like to know more about the organization and how churches can benefit. Yes, that's quite good. We will encourage you to look. We're going to spread the information more on Afford UK, which will help us to be able to get more information and see how that goes. And like Ray did mention, about the importance of this even to churches as well. So that's quite good, a very good observation. And I'm sure there are various ways that churches can benefit from that as well. So any other person want to ask a question?
George, I have a quick question. This is Rosie.
Yes.
Sorry, but I don't want to take up the space if others have questions. It was a question just about the involvement of women and girls, because I know for lots of churches we speak to that gender justice is really important in terms of looking for ways to invest money. I just wondered from your perspective, like the role of women in tech development and solar energy in Africa. What's your perspective, Ray? Is there lots happening? Is there lots to invest in, or is there a lot more work that needs to be done?
It's mixed, I have to say. We've got a very interesting women-led energy access company in Uganda that we're working to bring to the platform, and they're really focused on solar water pumps. Because for lots of women that are working in subsistence farming in Uganda, solar water pumps are quite transformational in terms of the amount of physical work that needs to be done. And we've also started a process of due diligence with a women-led business in, let me just make sure I get that right, I think they're headquartered in Kenya. And they're looking at distributing solar mills for grain, because they know firsthand the amount of hours that many women in Africa spend pounding grain or carrying grain to mills in order to get it worked on. So I think there are investment opportunities. We are trying to prioritize them, but I think there's a lot more that could be done. We're seeing some innovation, as I spoke earlier about the Rome that makes motorbikes that are really targeted for the African market, and they're targeted on payload rather than comfort, and they're African designed and African built. There's another organization in Zimbabwe that is women-led, and what they've realized is that for many African women, motorbikes are just not a great way of getting around. So they've designed an electric tricycle, which has a bench seat in the front and has much better load and luggage space in the back. You sacrifice a bit of speed, but they're building that and they're targeting it toward women in Zimbabwe who don't feel happy riding motorbikes. So I think there are definitely projects that are out there, but I would have to say that the solar energy sector is a mixture of technology and engineering and finance. And if you mix technology and engineering and finance in the UK, you don't get a particularly good gender mix. So it wouldn't be fair for us to try and impose on companies in developing markets that, we expect you to have a better gender representation for these kind of roles than we actually achieve in developing markets. So I think there's a lot more that could be done, but we're trying not to impose that on people, because at the moment we just don't feel it would be a fair thing for us to do. The market's not developed enough yet.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ray. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And the question and answer time, I'm sure, has enlightened us on so many things that were in our mind. And if you have any further questions, you could as well send them as a text or a message or email to us, and we'll be able to send them to Ray and we'll be able to give you a response at the appropriate time. And also, like I said, the webinar is being recorded, and so some of us are going to be getting some of the recordings sent to us after this. And so that concludes our time with Ray. Ray, we want to say a big thank you for taking our time from your very, very busy schedule to be with us in this webinar. It's our first invitation to you. And we are looking forward to future collaborations with you and hoping that we'll be able to take it forward from there. And I'm glad also on Afford UK, and we hope to get more involved and also to share the information with participants, and hoping that most of us will get involved with that, because we would like to encourage the work you are doing. As indigenous Africans, we are people that are quite happy with what you're doing. And I can say that personally, I'm excited about it. And so thank you so much. Thank you to your team. And thank you for everybody that has joined you in this particular venture. We are very grateful. Thank you, Ray.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's been really wonderful, and it's nice to be spending some of my Friday evening with some like-minded people.
Thank you. Thank you. So having said that, we would like to invite to be giving us some words on the part of the work we do in Just Money Movement. We'll be welcoming the Director of Movement Building, who is here also with us today. We are privileged to have with us Rosie, who will be talking to us on some of the work of the Just Money Movement and some of the future events also that we are having. So, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the Director of Movement Building, Rosie Werner. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you so much, George, and thank you. Brilliant to have Ray with us. And yeah, we will be sharing all of the slides and the links, and obviously we can pass on any questions that people have for Ray, and maybe we can get him back at another time if there are more things that you want to learn. But I just wanted to mention a few things that are happening within the Just Money movement to invite you to be part of. And if you have become really excited about the prospect of investing ethically through the example that you've heard tonight, to just offer you a few other ways in which we can support you and your congregations to get involved with the Just Money movement. But also we really want to hear from you. We want to hear about the resources and the support that you want from us to accompany you on your journey of acting justly with money and seeking a fairer and more just economy. So for those, I've met some of you before on these webinars that George has had in the past, and I think some of you will be familiar with one of these frameworks that we use within Just Money about the different ways in which we act justly. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things and link them to some resources that we have, and also to invite you to some upcoming events. This on the slide here, I've just put a reminder of a framework that we've talked about before, which is looking at the different actions that we can take. And some of the things we've been thinking about tonight have been about where we move our money, what we invest in, and what we decide not to be invested in. So this is one of the approaches that we use within Just Money movement in terms of educating individuals and churches about how they can do good with their money, how they can invest in line with their values and their mission. One of those ways is by moving your money and developing ethical investment policies to exclude investments in certain things. But as we've heard tonight, it can also be about using our money for good. And I wanted to share a few examples and remind you of some of the ways in which you can do that. So we encourage Christians in their engagement with how they steward their money to think about where they bank. And I've just put a few examples on the screen here of banks that might be able to help you align your money with your values, whether that's as individuals or within your congregation. And one of the things that we can do at Just Money Movement is help you think through that and to discern where best to bank, and to explore the kinds of things that you want to do with your money in terms of seeking a fairer economy. So there'll be some banks there that may be familiar to you, but I just wanted to flag up some of the banks that we have worked with in the past, and that maybe we can get onto future webinars to talk about the work that they do. And then just a little bit more on using our money for good. We've heard, a really good example this evening from Energise Africa. That's just one example of many different ways in which you can get involved in supporting the change that you want to see in the world either through impact investing or through differently curated funds that address the kind of issues that you're interested in. And so I just wanted to, again, share a few more examples that might encourage you to explore further some of the things that you've heard tonight, but to look at the breadth of opportunities that there are out there. And again, we could maybe explore some of these in future webinars. So I have Energise Africa as one of the examples on the screen, but there are many other different ways in which you can either use your own money or your congregation's money to invest in positive change. And this is something, again, we can come and talk to churches about, or help you find speakers if this is something that you're interested in exploring more. We also have lots of resources available for churches. We have our Greener, Fairer Banking Guide, and we're really keen to hear from you what kind of questions you have about banks, what you want to know more about, what's your experience been with your bank. If you've switched bank and you've switched because you've been unhappy with the bank that you're currently with, what have those reasons been and why have you wanted to switch? We want to gather more of your testimony and stories so that we can go to some of the bigger banks and talk about the experiences you have with those banks and be part of advocating for fairer treatment by banks, particularly for smaller churches and charities that have struggled to access the services that they need, but also to talk to some of the banks that are more oriented to serving the church and the charity sector and say, this is what is needed from you. These are the kinds of services that are needed. So that's one very practical resource that we can offer to you. And then if you're wanting to do something which is more theological, more biblical reflection, particularly if you're involved in church leadership, then we have the Money Makes Change small group resource, which you could use in fellowship groups or home groups to delve a bit deeper into some of the issues we've looked at tonight. How do you align your faith and your money? What does that look like? And what kind of questions might you want to ask? How might you want to pray and discern what to do with your money and what to do with the money that your church stewards? So that's another resource which is available free for you from our website. Again, we'd love to have feedback from you if you've used this in your church. If you'd like us to develop further resources like this, what would be helpful for you? And then this is something which George has talked about in the past and can tell you much more about, but we're really excited to invite people to be part of the Champions Network. And I'm sure because you're here tonight, this is something that really interests you, how we use our money for justice, how we connect our faith and our finances. Would really encourage you to come and join in with the Champions Network that George is involved in building and resourcing. We provide you with access to resources and training like this to join in with others around the country, across the breadth of the UK church, to give you encouragement and to inspire you and equip you to perhaps to go out and talk within your own communities, within your own church, about some of these things like ethical investment, ethical banking. So please do talk to George about this if it's something that you'd be interested in getting involved with. We want to see champions all across the UK, and we're really happy to help you get started with that. So we'd love to, George would love to have a conversation with you and he can chat to you more about that. And I said I'd invite you to an event, and the event that we have coming up is really a follow-up, I guess, to this conversation tonight, because Energise Africa will be coming to speak to us again, but alongside a couple of other organisations that are involved in impact investing. So this will be taking place on the 8th of October. Again, it's an online Zoom event, and it's during Good Money Week, which is a time when we run a whole series of events and encourage people to put on things locally as well, to help connect people with different ways in which they can use their money for good. So we would love and we'd be delighted to have you with us at this next webinar, and you can sign up on the JustMoney website, and we'll make sure to send a link out in the email that goes out after tonight's webinar. I think I'm going to finish there and let George say the last closing remarks, but we also have a poll to share with you, because we would really like your feedback and your thoughts on what other topics to explore in this series of webinars. We hope to run another one before Christmas, and we'll run more in the new year. But we want them to be designed by you. We want to hear about the issues that you want to know about and the kind of speakers that you want to hear from. So I'm going to put this poll up on the screen for you to share your feedback while George gives the closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rosie. Quickly, three things I would like to say before we round up. One, like Rosie has said, try and complete our poll. We want to hear from you. That will help us a lot. That will speak a lot to us and let us know how we are doing. Number two, I would like to encourage you to be part of our Just Money Week. Quite very important. It's going to be something you're going to really love. And finally, I would like to encourage you to visit our website. And there you will see other events that we are also involved in. So having said that, I want to say a big thank you. Ray has been so wonderful and so great. And the topic explored was a very great one and very interesting one. I really enjoyed myself listening to it. I can't wait to have Ray back and to have a follow-up because this is a very important topic and I think I'm personally interested in. And so I want to appreciate everyone. So I want to thank you once again. And I really want to appreciate you. And we look forward to seeing you again when we invite you. Thank you for always turning up whenever we do invite you. And we really appreciate this opportunity. And we hope that you have a lovely weekend. And God bless you all. And look forward to seeing you again. And this brings to an end the webinar for this evening. Thank you. And God bless you. Again, my name is George, and I'm the movement builder for the Just Money movement for Black majority churches. God bless you. And bye-bye to everybody. Thank you.